The Saudis are exposing the Qataris. Let's take a look at this clip right here from the Middle East. What's up? I'm your favorite white colonizing Zionizer, Tala Traveling Clat. Let's jump in.
Could you say a few words about the falling out on the one hand of the Saudi Arabia and the UAE on the one hand and Qatar on the other? Are you moving toward a resolution of that situation?
It's not a falling out. It's just we don't want to have anything to do with them. The Qataris, since the mid-90s, have been sponsoring radicals. They have been inciting people. They have become a base for the leadership for the Muslim Brotherhood. And the Muslim Brotherhood, you have to keep in mind, is what begot us Takfir and Hijrah, which begot us Al-Qaeda, which begot us Al-Nusra. The Qataris allow their senior religious clerics to go on television and justify suicide bombings. That's not acceptable. The Qataris harbor and shelter terrorists. That's not acceptable. And Nashri, the head of Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula in 2000, entered Saudi Arabia on a Qatari passport. We captured Al-Qaeda types coming into Saudi Arabia with Qatari passports. The Qataris know this. The Americans know this. The world knows this. The Qataris are funding dissidents in the Emirates and Bahrain and Saudi Arabia and in Kuwait in order to cause problems for those governments and to create instability. Why would you do this? The Qataris pay ransom to terrorist groups, including $500 million to Hezbollah in Iraq, $50 million to Qasem Soleimani, according to text messages between the Qatari ambassador in Iraq and the foreign minister of Iraq, including, I don't know how much to Hezbollah in Lebanon. Is that acceptable? If we gave $1 to Hezbollah in Iraq, we'd be sued in a court down the street. And so the Qataris use their media platforms to spread hate. The Qataris send weapons to Al-Qaeda affiliated militias in Libya. The Qatari Emir was conniving with Gaddafi on how to overthrow Saudi Arabia. The Qataris connected Gaddafi with a Saudi dissident in London who they fund, who connected the Libyans with a group in Mecca with the objective of assassinating the then Crown Prince, later King of Saudi Arabia. Is this acceptable? We have phone conversation that the Libyans gave us after they overthrew Gaddafi, where the then Emir of Qatar is telling Gaddafi how he's recruiting princes and tribal leaders and military officers and members of the royal family to cause mischief and destabilize Saudi Arabia, and predicted that within 10 years there would be no royal family in Saudi Arabia. Is this acceptable? They do the same thing in Bahrain and in Kuwait and in the Emirates. So in 2012, we cut off relations with them, the same countries. And a year later, they came back and agreed that they will end all of this nonsense. And they signed an agreement. And nothing happened. So this time, we said, you know what? We're not going to deal with you. Unless you change. We will not allow you. There's a list of terror finances that the US puts out, the UN puts out. And a number of them are living openly in Qatar, raising money and giving it to bad people. Is this acceptable? Shouldn't be. Why do the Qataris get away with it? Because I think people see a young country, young leadership, they buy fancy buildings, they have a nice airline, and they think, wow, these guys are really modern. But we have to deal with the dark side that I just explained. And so that's why we said, unless you change, we're not going to deal with you. Now, what happened since we took this action? They signed an MOU with the US on terror financing that they had refused to sign before. They changed their laws to allow the introduction of evidence provided by a foreign government. They reduced their support for Hamas, which opened the door for reconciliation among the Palestinians. All of these are good things. Now we're waiting for them to continue to implement all the things that they promised to implement. They refuse to engage in a in a dialogue about implementing these issues, and we refuse to talk to them. And so for us, and we've said this to them, we've taken the steps that we took. No dealing with Qatar. You can't overfly airspace. You can't import things from our market. We will not, the military cooperation is still ongoing because that's a GCC issue, and with the US, so we do that. But the other stuff is all frozen until they change. And I hope they change. And if they don't change, we're patient people. We'll wait for 10, 15, 20 years, 50 years. How long did it take you with Castro in Cuba? We can do the same with Qatar. We'll have no issue. It would be nice of them if they acknowledge that they have a problem, and then they can fix the problem. And the problem with the Qataris is they're still in denial. And we need to move them from denial to introspection so they can fix the problem. We have no hostility towards Qatar. We just vehemently oppose their behavior, which is very dangerous to us and has endangered our citizens and has endangered our security. And that's why we took the steps we took.
This is a country we can make peace with, you know. This is the kind of place we can make peace with. This is the rhetoric from a country in the Middle East that really gets it. This is Adil Al-Jubair, Minister of Foreign Affairs in Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. I don't know when this clip was recorded. It looks like it was a little further back. Has anything changed with Qatar? No, not really. I mean, maybe you could say that they are trying to cozy up to the United States of America a little bit now, but nothing significant has really changed with their rhetoric. They still very much do finance terrorism and terrible rhetoric in their news stations and their media. But the Saudis are onto something here where I think they really are trying to usher in a new age for Islam. And this all comes down to the Arab colonization I've spoken about ad nauseum, but we'll bring it up again here. You have to understand, and this is no dig on Saudi Arabia or any of the Gulf states, because that's not what I'm trying to do with this specific thing I'm going to say. This idea, this facade that there's some sort of unity between the Arab world. Here you go. Here it is on a silver platter for you. There is no unity in the Arab world. There is no cohesion in the Arab world. There are factions and there are tribes, some who are authentic Arab lineage, like Saudi, like the UAE, like Bahrain, like Oman, who know their history, they know their culture. And then there's radicals. There's the colonized. There's Iraq. There's Syria. There's Lebanon. There's Egypt. There's Jordan. These are countries that are not Arab but Arabized, and they live on the fringes of the Arab Muslim world and are always vying for dominance, sort of swinging in between political stability and mostly instability. And the Saudis know this, and this is what makes Saudi Arabia, and why I have appreciation for Saudi Arabia. This is what makes them great, and this is what makes much of the Gulf states great, and this is what makes them countries that I can see us having peace with. They know who they are. They know their history. They know what they've done in the pursuit of Arabism and Islamism. And maybe they don't talk about it as often as they should. And maybe they shouldn't. You know, there's even an argument that they shouldn't. But they know who they are at the core. They know what they stand for. The rest of the Arabized, Islamized world doesn't. They don't. They're confused as hell because they were colonized. Don't believe me? Look at countries like Morocco that made peace with us recently. While Morocco has been heavily Arabized, you see that there's a true movement within Morocco to de-Arabize. When you ask a Moroccan if they're Arab, as long as you're not an Israeli doing it or a Jew doing it, most of the time they're going to tell you they're not an Arab. And most of North Africa, minus Egypt, is waking up to this idea that they aren't actually Arabs, that they're Amazigh, that they're North Africans. And if you ask an Algerian, ask a Tunisian, or ask a Moroccan, they'll all come together and coalesce at the fact that they aren't Arabs. But if you're a Jew, they will, in shared hatred and unity, they'll be like, fuck you, I'm an Arab. But the reality is, you look at a country like Morocco that has this heavy cultural fabric that's still a part of it, and you're like, okay, this makes sense. And it's similar to what you see in places like Saudi. When they wake up to who they actually are, they can be a partner to peace. But as long as we keep living in denial, And we keep trying to force this idea of Muslim Arab states, the Arab world, on these countries will never see true peace because they don't know who they are. You can't have true peace if you can't have peace in your heart. And that'll continuously go on forever. When you know who you are and you know what your identity is. As much as people want to claim onto Israel that it's a colonial state, we know who we are. At our core, we know we aren't European colonizers. We know what we stand for. We have our morals. The same things as the Saudis and the Bahrainis and the Emiratis. And I have to commend them. There's a lot of respect for it. And that's a partner I want to make peace with. That's a partner I can see myself having peace with. And I think this could be a new dawn, especially under Donald Trump and the Abraham Accords, of being able to usher in a new peace that we never were able to have in the days of old, in the days of Muhammad alayhi wasallam, that we were never able to have moving forward. And that could be something truly beautiful. And I'll see you guys in the next one. I love you a long time. Goodbye, clads. If you believe in my content and want to support me, just know your help is needed. There's a bunch of great ways to support me, being PayPal, Buy Me a Coffee, or joining my Patreon community down below. Patreon is the best way to support my channel, and you'll get a bunch of cool perks depending on what tier you join. Another great way to support me is by buying my merchandise on thetravelingclat.com. I regularly drop new merch designs like this beautiful hat or this amazing shirt, where you can support the channel and get something cool for yourself. I also have an amazing Discord community with people from all over the world. Thank you so much for your support.